I'm sitting in my childhood bedroom staring at an old, dust-covered hard drive. It looks like a brick of obsolete technology, something my dad built 25 years ago. 24 hours earlier, I was sitting in my car on the edge of the Royal Gorge Bridge, ready to let gravity solve all my problems. The woman I was going to marry had just erased my entire existence with a single press of the Enter key. She'd stolen my life's work, a revolutionary piece of software worth millions. But what I'm about to find on this ancient drive won't just save my life. It will unearth a family feud that started before I was born, expose a conspiracy at the highest level of the tech world, and reveal the real reason my father died a broken man. My name is Leo Vance, and if you told me a week ago that my future was a meticulously crafted revenge fantasy, I would have called you crazy. I was the lead developer and founder of my own indie game studio, engaged to be married, about to launch a game that would change the industry. Now, I'm here to tell you how one woman's long con, born from a tragedy that destroyed her family, almost annihilated mine, and how my father, from beyond the grave, left me the one weapon that could fight back. It started with a press release that made my heart stop. Gaming giant Nexus Corp acquires groundbreaking Athel engine in landmark deal. Then came the email from her, cold and clinical. Leo, all assets of Chronoforge Studios, including the Ethel source code, have been legally transferred. Your access has been revoked. The company is dissolved. Don't try to contact me. P.S. The engagement was just good marketing. You were so easy to read. This was from Elena Thorne, the woman I'd spent the last 3 years coding beside, dreaming with, building a future with. The woman who now owned my soul, and I was left with the debt. But to understand how I ended up here, you need to understand who we were. I was 32, a programmer, not the Silicon Valley stereotype, but a digital craftsman. My world was C++, Unreal Engine, and the elegant dance of procedural generation. I'd spent a decade working for big, soulless companies, grinding out yearly sports titles and military shooters, all while secretly building my own dream project in my spare time. My magnum opus, a game called Athel Elena, was the missing piece of the puzzle. 30 years old, a tech marketing guru with a smile that could disarm a server farm and eyes that saw market trends before they happened. She had this fiery auburn hair she'd tie back with a USB cable when she was deep in thought. She claimed she helped tech startups find their footing, turning brilliant code into profitable companies. We met at a gaming convention in Seattle. I was showcasing a tiny tech demo of Ethel's emotional AI system in a forgotten corner of the indie booth section. She watched for an hour, not playing, just observing. Her first words to me weren't about the game, but about the business. You have $1 billion algorithm and you're showcasing it like a child's science fair project. She handed me a business card. Elena Thorne. I build empires out of code like this. You're letting the big studios own you. Our relationship was a whirlwind of venture capital pitches and late-night coding sessions. She moved into my small Seattle apartment within 4 months. We were engaged within a year. She was the one who pushed me to quit my stable, 6-figure job. "You're an artist, Leo," she'd murmur, tracing the lines of code on my monitor. "You can't create a masterpiece while you're still painting fences for someone else. We'll start our own studio. I'll handle the business, you handle the magic. We'll be legends." The plan was intoxicating. She found us seed funding, office space in a trendy tech hub, and handled the mountain of legal paperwork to form our company, Chronoforge Studios. All I had to do was create. My mother, Sarah, never trusted her. She's a quiet woman, a retired librarian who lives in the same house I grew up in, a shrine to my late father. After my dad, a civil engineer, died when I was 7, she became fiercely protective. The first time she met Elena, she was polite but distant. Afterward, she called me. "Leo, there's something unsettling about her. The way she asked about your father, about the Westwood Bridge collapse. It wasn't curiosity. It was interrogation." I brushed it off. "Mom, she's just trying to get to know my family history. Dad's story is a big part of it." "She asked me what your father's exact title was," my mom pressed. She asked if he kept his old blueprints. Who asks that? It felt like she was confirming a story she'd already been told. The truth was, Elena knew the story better than I did. She knew my father, Thomas Vance, was the lead engineer on that bridge. She knew that when it collapsed 25 years ago, killing 12 people, the blame was laid squarely at his feet. And she knew that the subcontractor whose reputation was destroyed alongside my father's, the man who lost everything and took his own life a year later, was her own father. She had spent 3 years of her life becoming my perfect partner, my confidant, my future wife, all to exact revenge for a tragedy that happened when we were children, a revenge she would serve cold, digital, and absolute. But sitting in my childhood bedroom, clutching this old hard drive, I didn't know any of that yet. All I knew was that I was a ghost in my own life, haunting the ruins of a future that had been stolen. What I was about to discover was the key to my resurrection. 2 years ago, I was on top of the world. My game engine, Athol, was creating buzz in the developer community. Its core innovation was a procedural narrative system. You didn't just play a story. The game's AI studied your choices, your playstyle, your morality, and generated a unique story for you in real time. It was the holy grail of interactive storytelling. Every major studio wanted it. I'd had offers, but I met Elena. She was brilliant. We'd sit in dive bars, and she'd sketch marketing funnels on napkins while I described the philosophical underpinnings of my AI. She understood that I wasn't just building a game. I was trying to create digital empathy. "This isn't a product, it's a platform," she'd said. "If we sell it to Nexus or Omnicorp, they'll turn it into a soulless cash cow. We have to build it ourselves. Protect the vision." She made me believe we were David fighting a league of Goliaths. My mom's warnings grew more frequent. "Leo, she was asking about the inquiry, about the specific materials that failed. It's morbid." "Mom, it's in the past," I'd argue, frustrated. She's a history buff. "It's a famous local tragedy." "Your father was a good man, Leo. He was meticulous. He wouldn't have made a mistake like that," she'd say, her voice trembling. "He died of a broken heart, not incompetence." But Elena was a master of her craft. She'd bring my mom rare first-edition books she'd found, ask about her favorite authors, and listen patiently to stories about my dad. She was slowly, expertly neutralizing the only person who sensed the danger. The proposal was my idea, on the 1-year anniversary of founding Chrono Forge. I did it in our empty office space, surrounded by whiteboards covered in her market projections and my algorithm flowcharts. Our entire shared dream was on display. She cried and said yes instantly. That night, she presented the final business plan. "I've secured a second round of funding," she announced, her eyes gleaming. "A tech incubator. It's a loan, but with amazing terms. It'll let us hire a team, finish development, and launch within a year." The numbers were staggering. A $1.5 million loan. My savings were already gone, poured into the initial startup costs. Elena had it all worked out. "Your name and reputation as the creator of the engine are our biggest asset," she explained. "The loan has to be personally guaranteed by you. It's standard for founder-led startups. But don't worry, the IP and all company assets will be held in the Chrono Forge LLC, protecting us." She handled everything. The loan agreements, the corporate structuring, the intellectual property assignments. She'd slide stacks of paper in front of me between marathon coding sessions. "Sign here, initial there. It's just the standard boilerplate for the LLC. This one assigns the IP to the company we both own." I never read the fine print. I was a developer, not a lawyer. I was building a world out of code. She was building the company to house it. I trusted her. My signature became a reflex. I never noticed that the loans and debts were attached to Leo Vance individual, while the asset assignments were to Chrono Forge Holdings, an entity I had no legal stake in, controlled entirely by her. Love doesn't just make you blind. It makes you stupid. For a year, we built our dream. I hired a small team of brilliant coders and artists, people who believed in Ethel as much as I did. They took pay cuts to be a part of it. Elena handled their contracts, their payroll. She was the perfect CEO. As we neared our launch date, she became more distant. Her phone was glued to her ear, and she'd take calls in the hallway, her voice a low murmur. Her laptop, once our shared workspace, became a fortress. One afternoon, I tried to use it to look up a piece of documentation, and she snatched it away. "Investor confidentiality," she said, her voice sharp. "NDAs, Leo. We're playing in the big leagues now." Then came the mysterious trips. She'd fly to San Jose for component supplier meetings, or have dinner with potential marketing partners. When I asked for details, she'd just smile, that disarming smile. "Need to know, my love? Let me hunt, you build the weapons. We're a team." 2 weeks before launch, I came into the office late and saw her in a conference room with a man I recognized from tech journals. Julian Croft, the notoriously ruthless head of acquisitions for Nexus Corp, our biggest potential competitor. When she saw me, she ended the meeting abruptly. "That was a bluff," she explained smoothly as Croft hurried away. "I'm leaking misinformation to him, making him think we're in trouble so Nexus won't try a hostile takeover before we launch." Corporate chess, baby. It sounded so smart, so strategic. I believed her. Looking back, it was their final negotiation. The red flags were a fireworks display, and I was admiring the colors. 3 days before launch, I saw her in the office with a notary. Documents were spread across the table. When I walked in, she stacked them neatly and placed a blank sheet on top. "Just some last-minute corporate tax structuring," she said, not missing a beat. "My legal team says if we move the final IP into a separate holding company before launch, it protects us from potential patent trolls. You want me to explain Subchapter S corporations, or do you trust me to save us a few $100,000 in taxes?" "I trust you," I said. And in that moment, I signed away my life. The day it all ended was supposed to be our triumph. Launch day. The servers were live, the press releases were scheduled, and pre-orders were already in the tens of thousands. I drove to the office at 5 a.m., buzzing with adrenaline, ready to watch our dream go global. My keycard flashed red. Access denied. I tried again. Red. I called Elena. Her phone went straight to a disconnected message. My stomach turned to ice. I pulled out my phone and saw the email from her. The cold corporate tone. The casual PS that felt like a knife twisting. Then I saw the news alert from a major tech publication. Nexus Corp acquires groundbreaking Ethel engine. I read the article, my hands shaking so badly I could barely hold the phone. It quoted Elena Thorne, CEO of Chronoforge Holdings, talking about a seamless transition and her excitement to join the Nexus Corp family. It mentioned the technology was acquired for an undisclosed 8-figure sum. I started hammering on the glass door of the office. Through the window, I could see my team, my friends, sitting at their desks looking confused and defeated. Elena walked out of my old office holding a folder. She didn't look at me. She addressed the team, and I could see their faces fall as she spoke. She was telling them they now worked for Nexus. Security guards, men I'd never seen before, appeared and escorted me from the property. "Sir, you're no longer an employee here. We have to ask you to leave. This is my company, my code." I screamed, my voice cracking. "You'll have to take that up with the new owners," one of them said, unimpressed. That night, in my empty apartment that suddenly felt like her space, the full weight of the catastrophe hit me. My lawyer's words echoed in my head. "Leo, she played you like a fiddle. The IP assignment you signed is ironclad. But the $1.5 million development loan, the personal guarantee is in your name alone. The bank wants its first payment in 30 days. You have no company, no source code, and a debt that will bankrupt you 10 times over." She hadn't just stolen my game. She'd stolen my name, my reputation, my future, and left me chained to the corpse of our dream. I drove out to the Royal Gorge Bridge, the highest suspension bridge in the country. I stood on the edge, the wind whipping around me, the canyon a dark, gaping maw below. It seemed so simple. One step and the debt, the humiliation, the heartbreak would all be over. My father's face flashed in my mind. The old photos of him, a proud engineer in a hard hat. A man who had faced public disgrace and lost everything, but never gave up. My mom had told me he died of a heart attack, but she always added, "He died of a broken heart." I couldn't do that to her. I couldn't let another Vance man be broken by a public scandal. I stepped back from the edge and called her. "Mom," was all I could manage to say before I broke down. "Come home." "Leo," she said, her voice calm and steady, as if she'd been expecting this call her whole life. I drove the 3 hours to my childhood home in a daze. My mother was waiting up for me, a pot of tea brewing on the stove. I told her everything. The game, the loans, Elena, the betrayal. She listened, her face a mask of quiet sorrow. When I was done, she didn't offer condolences. She stood up and went to my father's old study. She came back holding a heavy, industrial-looking external hard drive from the late 90s with a custom-built casing. "Your father gave this to me before he died," she said, her voice low. "He made me promise to give it to you if you were ever in a fight you couldn't win. He said the Thorne family might not be finished and that the truth was the only thing they feared." My blood ran cold. "Thorne! Elena's last name is Thorne." My mother nodded, her eyes filling with tears. "I know, baby. That's why I was so scared. Marcus Thorne was the subcontractor who supplied the steel for the Westwood Bridge. He accused your father of changing the specs to save money. It was his word against your dad's. But Thorne's company declared bankruptcy, and all his records conveniently disappeared. Your father was ruined. Marcus Thorne killed himself a year later. It seems his daughter decided it was your father's fault." She pushed the hard drive across the table. "Your father was a brilliant, meticulous man. After he was disgraced, he became obsessed. He spent the last year of his life in his study, working on this. He called it his black box. He said if anyone ever tried to rewrite his story, the truth was in here. The next morning, I sat in my old bedroom. The black box connected to my laptop via a series of ancient adapters. It powered on with a loud whir. The screen showed a single prompt, a command line interface with a blinking cursor. Underneath it, a riddle. The first principle from which all strength is derived. 5 digits. It was a question my dad used to ask me when I was a kid, helping him in his workshop. The answer was the ASTM code for the carbon steel he taught me to identify. 20671. I typed it in and hit enter. The drive unlocked. It was a digital archive of my father's entire professional life. But inside were 2 folders that changed everything. The first was labeled Westwood Proof. Inside were the original time-stamped CAD files for the bridge, scanned copies of the material requisitions, showing my father had ordered steel that was 50% above the required tensile strength. And then the smoking gun. Scanned. Sworn affidavits from 2 of Marcus Thorne's former employees, dated a week after the collapse, stating that Thorne had sold the high-grade steel my dad ordered, replaced it with cheaper, substandard material, and pocketed the difference. He had bribed them to keep quiet. My father had the proof to clear his name, but Thorne's suicide and the media frenzy had buried it. The second folder was what made my heart leap into my throat. It was labeled Janus Key. A note from my dad appeared when I opened it. "Leo, if you are reading this, then I am gone, and the world has wronged you as it wronged me. I couldn't trust the systems of men, so I built my own. This program, Janus Key, is a digital skeleton key. It's designed to exploit a security flaw I discovered in network data archiving protocols. It can reconstruct data packets from cloud backups even after they have been professionally deleted. It can look both forward and back, into the past and the present. Find their secrets. Expose their lies. The truth will protect you." Dad, my father, a disgraced civil engineer from the 90s, had, in his paranoia, created a master-level piece of hacking software. I knew exactly what to do. Elena and I had used a shared cloud server for all of Chronoforge's development. She was arrogant. She would have used the same network for her conspiracy. I ran Janus Key, pointing it at the archived server logs linked to her accounts. For hours, my screen was a waterfall of code as the program reassembled deleted data fragments. And then it appeared. A recovered email chain between Elena Thorne and Julian Croft at Nexus Corp, dated 6 months before they even approached me. "The target is Leo Vance," Croft had written. His engine is a decade ahead of us. We need it. Your family history with the Vances makes you the perfect asset for this operation. Get close to him, get him to sign the IP over, and load him with debt. The board has approved a $10 million bonus upon successful acquisition of the code, clean and unencumbered. Elena's reply, Julian, my price is the bonus, plus Nexus's full legal and financial backing in crushing him. His father ruined my family. I want his son to be nothing but a footnote in a bankruptcy filing. I want him broken, just like his father. There was more. Financial records showing she'd done this on a smaller scale to 2 other indie developers, using their ideas as stepping stones. She was a serial predator, and I was her grand finale. My father's black box wasn't just proof of his innocence. It was the weapon I needed to reclaim my life. I didn't call a lawyer. I called the Seattle field office of the FBI. Within an hour, 2 agents from the cybercrime division were sitting in my dad's kitchen. I showed them everything. My father's proof, the recovered emails, the loan documents. The senior agent's eyes went wide. We've been trying to build a case against Nexus Corp's anti-competitive practices for years, he said. They acquire and bury startups, but we've never had an inside source. This is the whole playbook. Industrial espionage, conspiracy to commit fraud. This is everything. 3 hours later, I was sitting in an unmarked car across the street from the gleaming Nexus Corp tower. The FBI was going in. They wanted me to watch. I saw Elena through the glass lobby. She was being interviewed by a tech channel, a confident smile on her face, talking about her vision for the future of gaming. Then the FBI agents swarmed in. Her smile dissolved into disbelief, then cold, hard fury. As they put her in cuffs, her eyes scanned the crowd outside and locked onto mine. She didn't scream that I was supposed to be dead. She screamed something far more chilling. You were supposed to be broken, she shrieked, her voice echoing through the plaza. Like father, like son. The Vances are weak. The agent beside me just keyed his radio. We have a full confession on camera. The fallout was spectacular. The story was everywhere. Tech heiress's revenge plot exposed by father's 25-year-old digital ghost. The evidence was irrefutable. Elena Thorne was sentenced to 20 years for conspiracy, wire fraud, and industrial espionage. Julian Croft and 2 other Nexus executives went down with her. Because the acquisition was based on fraud, the entire contract was voided. The IP for Ethel reverted to me. Nexus Corp, facing a massive federal lawsuit, settled with me out of court for a sum that was, let's just say, more than enough. The 2 other developers Elena had scammed were made whole. My father's name was officially cleared. The city council voted to rename the park at the foot of the new Westwood Bridge the Thomas Vance Memorial Park. I didn't go back to the old office. I founded a new studio. I called it Phoenix Down, a little nod for the gamers out there. We launched Ethel 6 months later. It was a sensation. It won Game of the Year. Critics didn't just praise the technology. They talked about its heart, its story of resilience. Every week, I go to my mom's house for dinner. We talk about my dad now, not as a tragic figure, but as the hero he was. The brilliant engineer who, even in his darkest hour, was thinking about how to protect his son from a future he could only imagine. I keep that old, heavy hard drive on my desk, right next to my Game of the Year award. It's not obsolete technology to me. It's a monument. It's a reminder that love doesn't have to be loud. Sometimes it's quiet, meticulous, and encoded on a disk, waiting decades to save you. Elena Thorne thought she was writing the final chapter of a family tragedy. But she didn't realize my father had already written the epilogue. His love was the failsafe. His truth was the master key. And in the end, that's a code no one can crack. That's my story. A warning that the person who promises to help you build your dream might be planning to tear it all down. But it's also proof that a father's legacy is more than just a name. It's the tools he leaves you to rebuild your world when it all comes crashing down. If you were moved by Leo's story of resilience, please hit that like button and share this video. In the comments below, tell us about a time a parent's wisdom saved you or a betrayal you managed to overcome. And make sure to subscribe for more true stories that prove reality is stranger and more inspiring than any fiction.